Hey everyone, Justin Holland here with the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. Everybody listening on the show today, I got to admit, you're in for a treat. We've got two great special guests today that I'm going to introduce here in just a moment. But just want to make sure we kick off the show with identification. Just like I mentioned, the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. I'm your host, Justin Holland with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group. We're a local brokerage here with both those segments of the business, and we talk about everything insurance on this show. Just to recap, we've talked about home and auto and umbrella policies on shows, Medicare, individual health insurance, medical providers here in the San Antonio area, and sometimes it's been a little venting session too on the challenges that we've had with the industry. We might go on off a few tangents on that today, but we're so glad you're joining us here on the show. And without further ado, I'm going to introduce Mike Papook with the Brokerage Inc. He's a returning guest on this show. We had him here a few weeks ago when he was in town. I'm going to introduce him and allow him to introduce himself, give us some background. And then we got Jay Casanova with Communicare Clinics here in San Antonio as well. Both of these individuals, I think the world of. Mike helps me in the industry. Jake is more on the provider side with their clinics and everything. And we're in good company today. So, Mike, why don't you kick us off? Just give us a little background again, just for those listeners that were not on the last show, and then we'll introduce Jake, and then we'll kick things off.
Absolutely. So, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mike Papook with the Brokerage Inc., an FMO that's been around for almost 50 years in this industry
Very
at
cool.
this point. So what do I do, guys? Honestly, under 65. So if you're looking for ACA help, short-term insurance, medical insurance, even ancillary products, whether it's dental, vision, accident, critical illness, hospital indemnity, you name it. My goal is to enrich people out there to make sure that all of our great partners, such as yourself, are out there just making a difference for all the clients, really when it's all said and done, especially in the San Antonio market. I've been with the brokerage now for about 2 years. When I first came to this wonderful show a few weeks ago, it was a wonderful experience, and I am very grateful that you invited me back to just talk about some other hot topics and update everybody what's going on about what's going on in this industry.
Mike and I were left in suspense on the last show because literally the government shutdown was going on. We were on bated breath for the ACA premiums and
Yes.
tax and all that. And obviously, we're going to discuss this in the show. We've got some updates for everybody because even last week when I recorded the show, we still didn't know what the AC rates were. So we're going to dive into that discussion. But Mike, really happy to have you here and can't wait for you to come back. And then we're going to have Jake. Give us some background, Jake, on yourself, and then we'll dive into Communicare and some details there.
Absolutely. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Jake Reyna Casanova. I am with Communicare Health Centers here in San Antonio. I've been with the organization for 8 years now, which seems a long time. It seems longer, but
Getting warmed up.
it's all been fun. It's all been really fun for right, like just barely now getting warmed up with Communicare. But my role specifically as it relates to my work with Justin, it really lives in the Medicare world. So as Mike is below 65, I'm more on the plus 65 group, as well as anybody who qualifies for Medicare. But really excited to be here, and I'm no stranger to podcasts, but I've been really excited to be on here with Justin and the insurance component. But yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I mean, from San Antonio, so born and raised, and so very familiar with the area and the population that we serve. And within my role, I'm in like the population health. So public health is my forte specifically. But really excited to be here.
Jake, we're so glad that you're here, as well as Mike. What I want to do is I want to, what Mike gave us a heads up on what the brokers does to support the broker field. He specifically is focusing on the ACA under 65. And no doubt Mike and I are going to discuss that here during the show in a few minutes. We'd love some background on Communicare. So,
Yes.
really, I've gone to all of y'all's clinics. I've been to every single clinic
Yeah.
here in San Antonio and Austin, and the work that y'all are doing. Can you give us, background on Communicare and just how it was established and what y'all are doing? If that
Yeah,
makes sense.
absolutely. And thank you for giving me the time to speak about it just because I'm really passionate about everything we do. My whole career so far has been in the FQHC industry. which for those that are not familiar, FQHC is a federally qualified health center, also known as community health centers. But Communicare itself has been around since 1972, serving the San Antonio region. Now we have 34 clinics, but going back to our roots, we started out on the west side of San Antonio, which in the 78207 zip code, which for those that may not be aware, that is one of the most disenfranchised zip codes and most poor zip
Yeah.
codes in the San Antonio region. And so I want to hone into that because that's where a lot of our roots started with making sure that those individuals, no matter if they're a minority or they're a disenfranchised group, or an individual, that they have the access to care that they need and that they deserve. So back in 1972, Sister Gerald, she advocated for Communicare to be one of the first FQHCs here in San Antonio. And now, as a conglomerate of 34 clinics, we've had some really rapid growth over the past, I would probably say 15,
Oh yeah.
15 or so years, actually. And the fact that you went to all of our clinics, that's a journey
Yes, it is.
in and of itself, because we have quite a lot. Like there are clinics that I haven't even been to.
Well, good.
And
I'm,
I've been
I'm a
here
step
and I've
ahead
been
of
here
you.
for 8 years. But yeah, so as an FQHC, we make sure that we have affordable healthcare for everybody, no matter one's ability to pay. Anybody that comes into our clinic for preventative care, we make sure that we serve them in a way that is most accessible to them, which includes the affordability aspect and making sure that they can afford it. Because a lot of people, one of the things as far as social determinants of health goes, is they will forego their healthcare because of the cost. So we, as Communicare, we offer, discounts, sliding fee scales for those that are uninsured, the ones that otherwise they wouldn't have anywhere to go, whether it's for them, whether it's for their children, for their parents. We make sure that we are there for the entire family from the pregnancy, birth, all the way through seniors. So we make sure that we have everything that we can, and so we that includes not only the preventative aspect, but also the specialty care. So we do have some specialists on hand that we can refer patients to, whether it's like rheumatology or neurology, just because sometimes it's hard to get into specialty care.
It is.
As far as for like the general population, I've been there myself, so I'm very much familiar with like the complexity of healthcare, and so we really try to take that away, or take that challenge away from our patients, and take it on ourselves to make sure that they can get into any specialty
There's
or
no
primary
doubt
care.
y'all have had a growth spurt. We've
We
seen
really
that. I
have,
mean,
yes.
I mean, Mike, just so you have some insight here and our listeners, you'll see the social media updates, new clinics coming on board.
Mm.
They'll take on existing clinics, some mom and pop clinics that have been around and have them join the Communicare team, and you talk about, that demographic that y'all serve. Listen, the health insurance situations that we're seeing right now on the Affordable Care Act, on the Medicare, on group benefits that we're seeing, everything's getting affected.
Right.
But these rural areas and sometimes just the ones located here in the San Antonio metro, funding for that can be compromised, or taken back. Any challenges? Just some updates for building it, because I think we focus on our lives, we focus on our day to day. Yeah, we'll see some headlines out there, but I don't think everybody realizes some of the challenges of the good work that y'all are trying to do for that demographic and community. Anything that's come up that caused some disruptions there? I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah. So I mean, there's been good and bad, I'll be honest. One of the good things as far as, like, the state goes, we've recently got funding for a mobile unit. So we
Hmm.
have a mobile unit, so
That's right. I saw that online.
yeah, so we're able to actually go to a lot of those rural communities and be able to serve them in a way that they didn't have possible before, just because of the lack of the infrastructure in those communities, which a lot of the South Central Texas area and South Texas in general entirely, doesn't have access to, just because of the infrastructure and the healthcare industry that it kind of lacks. So that's been a positive, but I think also on the flip side, a lot of the changes as it relates to ACA, which I know we'll get into, the Medicare that's kind of happening now. We're preparing for it,
Yeah.
I will say. I mean, also like just the economic aspect of everything, whereas like, yes, everything is going up, which includes insurance components. So like some people that were insured may no longer be insured, and then they may be fall into that gap where they may still not be able to afford an ACA plan, but so then they become uninsured, and then the good thing is that we're there for them, that we wanna make sure that we're there for them, but it's a lot of, at the end of the day, we're a business, so we have to make sure that we're in operation so that we can help everybody or
Keep the
help
lights
as
on and keep it
basic
going. Yeah.
yeah. So it's like a I don't wanna say catch 22, I think that's the wrong phrase, but, because it's a bit of a negative, but
Yeah.
just, like, making sure that we can offer what we wanna offer, while also making sure the sustainability aspect of it all.
You bring up a point here, and I'm gonna what Mike and I let's dive. We're gonna bounce around a
Oh, for
bunch of
sure.
stuff
Yeah.
through this visit. Mike, the challenges that I've seen here local, San Antonio, Deep South Texas. We've got clients that I think we're gonna have to wait for the dust to settle a little bit, even after this enrollment, unless they do a special enrollment, and that'll be another topic that we discuss. But I think there's gonna be people that just didn't change their plan, and were kinda
Yeah.
paralyzed, and maybe didn't reach out to a brokerage like Texas State Insurance Services. And next thing you know, their Medicare plan isn't covering a particular drug on formulary. That ACA plan that they're on got terminated. We all know Aetna's leaving the ACA market. Those will be auto-enrolled or not auto-enrolled, depending on their situation. And I think I'm hoping we get a special enrollment period, not just on ACA, but on Medicare. But I just, Mike, I'd love your insight on. I think, I mean, I don't know where to start with this question. Does that make
I would,
sense?
yeah,
I mean,
I would go with what's a practical approach here, right? Um, what you just mentioned there is kind of like people become paralyzed. I would think that would be like just to all the listeners out there, don't get paralyzed here. Come in with a plan. And that plan should be reaching out to great people like yourself to make sure that they know and understand what those options are. And we know that currently the state of enhanced subsidies, we don't know what's going on over there. I can definitely run through rates to give the listeners at least some heads up towards whether if you're in the CSR range, subsidy range, or maybe you're outside of that subsidy range altogether because those enhanced credits were just not approved yet. So I know it's just for some of the listeners out there, what does that mean as far as affordability? We can dive through that. But definitely talking to a very trusted agent or broker in your community is going to be step one. Doing nothing is going to lead to the worst possible outcome. And I don't mean
Yeah.
to go
Yeah.
towards the worst possible outcome, but let's talk about that a little bit more, especially when you think about like what's happened in the final CMS rules, the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and think about the cap that used to be there when it came to even subsidy repayment, right? So let's say, for example, I took in more subsidy than I should have received. Maybe the cap for that individual could have been maybe $300, depending on their scenario. Now, if you're not talking to an agent and if you're not updating that information in general, what does that mean? You could be out hundreds of dollars, thousands of dollars, or even tens of thousands of dollars because you froze. That's the worst thing you can do. Get with your trusted advisor and make sure that you know exactly what it looks like from a household income perspective, household size, get that all updated, and then find out what options are available to you.
we'll take it a step further on that too, because some people fall off cliffs, and in the health insurance industry. You either don't make enough money to qualify for assistance, or maybe I've got a lot of individuals, Mike and Jake, that they're just not working, or they're trying to find work, and they could have gone a year or months, and that affects their income threshold on the Affordable Care Act. Medicaid is not expanded yet in Texas, and I will tell you, after doing this the past 12 years on the insurance side, man, there's got to be some reform there to make some qualifications. I mean, I got some adults that are in some pretty tough spots, and they either have to go to a communicare on a sliding scale, or have to utilize, the CareLink system, where it's basically financing. Mike, you might not be familiar with CareLink here, but they're ultimately financing surgeries or care, and
Mm.
helping them with a payment structure, all of that. But it's not insurance. So I'm hoping, as we see the unwinding, so to speak, of health insurance and healthcare, maybe that's a part of that, where we can expand some Medicaid coverage for those adults with a qualification there. Because, man, I've lost clients that have passed away because they didn't have coverage. we've saved clients, lives from, and that's one thing I love about this business. We'll get, provided a scenario or situation. And I think I brought this up on a show and I'm going on a tangent here. But when you get lousy medical news, when you get the tough news, I just ran into a close family friend yesterday, and I was shocked because they got a cancer diagnosis. And I had a client a few weeks ago, and when you get that news, if you've got good health insurance, if you've got a great plan, and you're confident in that, it's going to empower you. Okay, not
Yeah.
just from having the ability to you know see any doctor you want, medications covered. It just helps you. I'll tell you right now, my father had open heart surgery, Dallas. He had a Medicare supplement plan, had the freedom and flexibility during COVID, mind you. That whole chaos of trying to get into the doctor and all that.
Yeah.
So when you've got the right insurance in place, or you've got some assistance, whether it be Medicaid, whether it be ACA, maybe it's a group sponsor plan or Medicare, it just echoes visiting with an agent or broker that cares, that wants to make sure you're not just trying to get enrolled in a plan. We're playing the long game. I met with a doctor early this morning on an appointment. I said, "Hey, listen, here are your scenarios, and this is what I recommend." And I always remind my clients, I want to be your agent, for the long haul. Okay, we're building up this brokerage, and I kid the past couple of weeks because there's so much noise, so many phone calls. I'm like, "Hey, I'm your agent until I'm 6 feet under, until I'm in the dirt,
Mhm.
go find somebody." And they chuckle and they laugh, but I mean it.
Yeah.
I wanna help build that. So that's a long, chime in on that, but I hope we see some Medicaid, expansion off of that for those that really need that assistance. Um, any other things that y'all wanna add on the AC? I mean, we talked about the subsidies, I brought up the Medicaid. Um The ICRA, I don't know if ICRA, do you think that that could have a chance at coming back, Mike,
I think
to the
so.
to the talking table?
It's always gonna come back to the talking table, whether if it's a year from now or even 5 years from now. Something's gonna happen, especially with the administration that's in the office right now. They're always going to look towards alternate solutions in general, that is not really heavily leaned towards, the ACA.
Mhm.
If you listen to Trump's interview on 60 Minutes, a lot of this, that he was receiving questions specifically about the shutdown and what's going on here. And his response was simply like, "Hey, it's not me that's doing the shutdown. It's the Democrats that are doing the shutdown." So you hear clips like that. But also at the same time, ACA is just unaffordable at
Right.
this point. So what sort of alternate solutions are going to be out there? And we want to give people more affordable care at a better rate.
The Trump administration had time to make Obamacare better. Even
Mhm.
Trump said that, "I gotta hold that accountable on both sides of the
Absolutely.
ticket." 'Cause it's like a volleyball match sometimes, dealing with both sides of the aisle whenever it comes to healthcare. But I'm a little disappointed, I mean, I think they coulda made some stuff happen. They were slow on the hand for special enrollments during COVID,
Hmm.
and when the Biden administration, they came in with those, and don't get me wrong, a lot of fraud followed with
A
with
lot.
that being lax, so to speak, on the enrollments and special enrollment periods. But I will tell you, it helped during, a lot of uneasiness and chaos.
It sure does. And to clarify the whole fraud piece, right? So just to the listeners out there. So essentially when the American Rescue Act plan came into place, that opened up the 150 SEP, the special enrollment period. So if you fall between 100 to 150%, such as in the state of Texas, you can enroll into a health plan at any given time if you're within that. And you can change your health plan at any given time. I think that was a loophole that was consistently um,
Abused.
abused. That's the correct word, consistently abused. Which then from there, great partners such as yourself, where you guys were dealing with a lot of AOR changes that you would write a client, all of a sudden they were put on a different plan with a different person altogether, and you literally just got off the phone with them. So there was a lot of abuse and waste going through in the industry, and even people that were currently on Medicare, that all of a sudden they would get a notice saying like, "Oh, I'm on an ACA plan now too. What's going on here?" So when you look back towards, is the ACA program perfect? Absolutely not. It's perfect. What's it there for? I love the fact that you have the 10 essential health benefits. You don't have to worry about pre-existing conditions. People who actually need coverage and high quality care, that's what it's there for. What I don't like is the fraud, waste, and abuse aspect of it, because that's billions upon billions of dollars that's being wasted from taxpayers in general that's going towards a program where it's just like, okay, let's scale it back a little bit. Let's take away the fraud race abuse. Let's actually bring back integrity to the program, which is what I agree with the new final CMS ruling that came place towards end of August when they finalized that ruling. Oh no, it was I apologize. That was June, I believe.
June, earlier this year or
Yeah.
mid-year. Very good input off of that. Listen, everybody, we are listening to the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. This is a good segue to introduce the show. A reminder of what we got on the show. We've got Jake Reyna Casanova from Communicare. We've got Mike Papuk from the Brokerage Inc. Mike was just talking about some of the fraud and this just let's just call it fraud and abuse in the health insurance industry. And I want to talk about that since we just identified the show. I'm Justin Holland. We have Texas State Insurance Services. That division focuses on Medicare and individual health insurance. Now, I'll just talk about it right now. We lost a handful of our good long clients last year, last fall, because they took a phone call and just thought or just assumed it was us or their carrier. And they took a phone call, got switched on a plan, got modified, adjusted, or changed on their plan. And then we finally said, "Hey, something's not right," and called us. "Hey, Justin, my premiums all changed. I'm on a new plan. What happened?" I'm like, "Well, we didn't get a phone call." "Well, I talked to somebody." Okay, well, let's go in. Once we dig in, we saw people where they lowered their income to be a zero premium plan, to keep them going, switched their plan so they didn't have the same doctors, and it was a mess. It was exhausting. We weren't the only brokerage. We're not a small, but we're like a medium sized brokerage, and then you got the large scale brokers that are out there, and it was tough because some of those clients that took that phone call or got switched on their Medicare, it wasn't just ACA, it was Medicare too. You get all these phone calls. Just make sure you've got a trusted brokerage. I would love for Texas State Insurance Services to be the brokerage of choice for y'all, but be cautious. Have your guard up on those phone calls and those emails, and don't just assume that it's going to be the best option. That's why we really try to channel the brokerage partnership. Jake, we'll talk about, with you here in just a minute, but the partnership, y'all, our relationship on making sure we take care of patients and assist them with a full fledged review. They know we care about
Right.
that. I brought this up a minute ago. Man, have an agent and broker that cares,
Yes.
okay? That is passionate about the business. They're out there. I'm one of them. We exist. It's a little tough for us right now this time of year and the headwinds that we've got in the industry, but we're going to persevere. But whether you use us as your brokerage, and you can reach out to us at 210-880-5316 or visit us online at txstateinsurance.com. We'd love to help you out with that. Jake, let's talk Communicare again. Like I said, we're going to bounce back and forth on the visit this morning. It's going to be a volleyball match. We talked about the history of Communicare,
Mhm.
the segment that you're doing there. It's growing as well. Is there any good news coming up for the new year? Anything that we want to let the audience know, whether it be new clinics or any programs coming up? I'm curious.
Yeah, no. Before I get there, I do want to mention, like, just to kind of piggyback off of what you're mentioning, is as far both of y'all mentioning as far as like having a trusted agent. For the listeners, like as a healthcare consumer, I cannot say that enough myself. Just because, like, as you're mentioning with like the fraud, and like that's honestly, as it relates to our Medicare team, we have specific brokers that we trust. Because from my perspective, I'm coming a lot from the patient side, and so my team helps with all the Medicare enrollment prior to when a broker is needed, just because of licensure and everything of that nature. But we send you, Justin, sometimes when when the time is right for that patient, just because we want them to know, like, you're in good hands, you will be taken care of. Like, if anybody else calls you, thank you, but no thanks. Like, just let it be a phone call that just kind of you, or ignore it. Just because I think also another thing that we're seeing with our senior patients specifically is just the scamming that's going on.
Yeah.
Just because it's such a because seniors are such a vulnerable population. And like I have my mom And I tell her, like, if you don't know the number, don't answer it, like, point blank. Like, unless you know who it's
Of the
gonna
rapid fire
be.
phone calls that all of us
Yeah,
receive all
yes,
day long.
I know, and like, now mine, I'm like, I have mine blocked, so I don't even hear it ring, but, yeah, like, I just wanted to reiterate that just because from, like, the, I guess, primary care side and, my focus is on the patients, just making sure that as patients, make sure that you do have a trusted. I can't say that enough, and second both of y'all for saying that. But as far as like communicare, we've seen a rapid growth. I think this year we're on target to see like 150,000 unique patients in the San
Wow.
Antonio and surrounding region. Which is up from like I kid you not, maybe 4 years ago we were like at the 100,000 mark. And so now that we have like 50,000 more, it's remarkable, and we're so proud of that. And it'll keep growing. I will say, there are things in the work that growth is growth opportunities for our CEO. He loves them, and we all love them
He's a good guy. You got a good
because.
CEO.
Oh yeah, I really appreciate working with Paul. I admire him so much, and like just the also the innovation that he allows. Not only for like he embraces that, but he also embraces his entire staff to really like think outside the box, think about what we can do rather than what we're doing right now, and thinking about it better. And he's always like, try it for 3 months. If it fails, okay, you learn from it. Don't not learn from it. That's the biggest mistake. But then after that, then well, if it doesn't work, then we try something new. If it does work, then we have a new thing. Um, but so growth opportunities will always be happening. I
Okay.
know there are some clinics in the works, um, in the far west side of San Antonio. um, but as of right now, like
Which is needed over
it
there.
is needed.
Yeah.
It is needed. And I will speak on my behalf. Like I am from that side of town, and it is booming. Like the traffic. It's taken me a while to get used to. Like I'm from San Antonio, and like it's just I sometimes I'm like an hour to get where
Just to
like
get out of the
in
neighborhood.
San Antonio, like that's just not normal.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But I know, like my husband and I, we just like, okay, well, we got a new house over there, so we got to deal with it.
And
But
Mike's in the DFW area, and he's even, grimacing from that as well.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, but I'm just more in, like, the Argyle Flower Mound, so my drive to work
okay.
is, like, 20, 25
you're in good
minutes.
shape.
I'm just passing all the longhorns and the cattle. I'm like, "This is a great way. Wow, look at these wonderful farms. It's a great way to get to work," just
Yeah.
scenic.
I'm like, I have like one farm on my way to work, but even then I'm like, and it'll take me like 15 minutes to get to work, but which is very abnormal for San Antonio. But all that to say, you're correct. Like that side of town is just booming, and the need for our services, the preventative services, as well as the specialty services, is absolutely needed. So there's a lot of that coming down the pipeline. We're constantly looking at growing our population health team. So with that, it's a lot of like the wraparound services where it's, we understand that, 80% of one's healthcare is happens outside of the clinic. So we have a specific team that any patient has access to get, whether it's like referral resources, or resources in general about like what is there in the community if someone needs, assistance with food or assistance with paying their bills. Like the population health team really focuses on making sure for those high risk patients
You've got a
that they
great
get
team over
everything.
there that helps above and beyond just, just within the community. Mike, what's been nice
Yeah.
is, during COVID, you got a lot of immigrant clients that are at some of these clinics from all over the planet. And it's just humbling to see the work y'all are doing
Yeah.
and go that extra mile, not just on healthcare and the other stuff, the benefits that they might have access to, they didn't know realize that they had.
Right. Right.
We talk about the far west side, with you living over there, the CommuniCare reach there. We're looking actively trying to have a location to visit clients over in that area as well. We haven't landed it yet, but where I'm going with this is we have a location in North San Antonio, Stone
Mhm.
Oak area. That's where I spend most of my time out of that main office. We've got one off of Broadway that we visit with clients that I need to get in that Alamo Heights area. We've got another one in the Medical Center in Dominion. So, and then we've got a location down in McAllen, Texas, servicing the Rio Grande Valley. I'll be down there next week. So, we a lot of our visits, especially this time of year, are remote, online meetings or phone calls because we'll do visits anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes at a time, so we can have time for everybody. And we've got tools. I mentioned this on the last show to really size up the review of ACA or Medicare with these clients, as long as we've got the data from the client, hey, we can
Easy.
really quickly take a look and take an assessment, say, hey, this is what we're looking at. You don't want to dwell on it. We don't want to, you might want to think about making a decision if there's a doctor disruption or medication. But if you got a good agent, they should be able to help you, assess it, move on to the next plan, and then worry about other stuff going on in your life as well. But I wanted to pitch the locations, so to
Yeah.
speak, with that. Mike, let's bounce back into the Affordable Care Act. And you and I were at an event yesterday at a clinic, and around a handful of other agents, local here in the area, and we're able to see the new plans, the new carriers, the pricing, where I and hopefully I don't, just lose it, when we talk about this conversation. But let's dive into that. What are you hearing? Because what I like with Mike, he deals with other brokers and clients on a national scale. Okay, where I'm just focused on San Antonio, South Texas. I mean, all of the state of Texas, but our backyard in South Texas. What are you hearing? I'm curious if you're hearing good news, bad news, and different. What do you got?
I'm hearing a sense of relief in general.
Okay.
Every carrier was approaching us and just saying, "Hey, with everything going on, we don't even know if $0 plans are going to exist." Especially with all the fraud that was happening as well. You hear things from CMS. It's like we're going to do everything that we can to also eliminate those $0 pieces. The way that they see it from both sides of the pond is that if it's $0, it's tied to fraud one way or another. So I was like, okay, well, that might be a big deal for a lot of for a lot of clients out there that do need something that's affordable in general. Even if it's $5, let's make something affordable. I mean, it's called the Affordable Care Act for a reason. When Affordable Care Act first came into fruition about 11 years ago, I used to call it the Unaffordable Care
Oh
Act.
yeah.
Why? I compared it to what my premiums were. 11 years ago was a much younger and much healthier version of myself. And
Makes two of us.
And I was like, okay, so I'm paying $80 now for this $250 deductible and a bronze plan right now. Okay, that's might be about a $5,000 out of pocket, but I'm now paying $400 to $500. How is that affordable, right? But these are things, those are the initial pain points of the Affordable Care Act and what came to play. And here we go, fast forward to where we now are, right? So I want to look back and I want to kind of set the record straight here as far as is it affordable? Is it not affordable? So I drew up just a key zip code in the area,
Cool.
and I wanted to just break it down to a simple 45-year-old. Let's talk about if they receive a subsidy level, right? So let's say, for example, they make 40,000. Scenario number two, same 45-year-old, they're receiving subsidies and cost share reductions. And then let's look at the no subsidy zone. And we're
Okay.
in the no subsidy zone again because of the fact that we're in a cliff, right? And not like your cliff that you look up in the valley or anything like that. We're talking about if you're over 400% of poverty level, okay, that just means currently that you're not going to receive any subsidies to reduce the monthly cost of your health insurance. If those enhanced subsidies are going to return, then guess what? That relief for you guys out there that do make in that 400, 600, even 800%, that could come back and help you guys out and keep it affordable again for you guys. So I'm just going to throw this out here, right? So subsidy level, 45-year-old, 40,000. Okay. I'm going to just throw this out there. Bronze level plans. Imperial's coming in at $32.
Okay.
United is coming in at $81. Okay. So even at someone who's making 40,000 a year, a bronze level play with a carrier like Imperial or United at $81 that has a very copay forward type bronze level plan, great. Those are
Reasonable premium.
Yeah.
reasonable premium, right? Now, if you're looking into the silvers, that's where it gets really out of whack. You have United Sanitas at 285, Imperial at 299, Oscar at 303. Here's where the fun part comes in, okay? Gold, because of silver loading with what we have seen, gold is actually going to come out with a solid value piece. So if I were a client on the phone, is bronze going to be the play or is gold going to be the play? And someone who's making 40,000 a year, it might be the gold if healthcare is something that you can budget accordingly, right? So United Sanitas is coming in at 181. WellPoint is at 208. So you could always go bronze. And the one thing that I've shared with all of my agents out there, so listeners out there, if you're an agent, don't think just Medicare, don't just think ACA. If you're going to be offering these bronze level plans at a $32 clip, please make sure that you are supplementing those plans with an accident, critical illness, or a hospital plan, because we want to make sure too that it's not just the premiums that are affordable, but when they actually have to use the insurance, is that going to be affordable for them at the same time? So keep that in mind. Next one is the CSR levels, cost sharing reductions. In other words, between 100 to 250% of poverty level. So I threw in, 45-year-old making 20,000 a year. Okay. I was really worried about, are the $0 plans even going to exist? I'm hearing stories out there because, it's now that $0 plan is going to be 50 or 80 or even 100. That's not the case at all with this type of scenario. So this is exciting news. Bronze, Blue Cross of Texas, Imperial, and United, all
Very
$0.
cool.
Wow.
Okay. Where you're going to get some cost that goes into it because it's going to be silver. You got that cost, the silver loading and cost share reductions, just to remind the viewers out there, instead of having to worry about a $10,600 out of pocket, depending on your level, it might actually be closer to 1,000, 2,000, or even 3,000.
Substantially lower.
Wow.
Substantially lower. That's why there's actually going to be costs with these things. But also, if you have a $50 copay to see a doctor, that might actually be $10 or even zero in some of these cases, because cost sharing is meant to actually reduce these out of pocket risks if you fall into a specific bracket. So United Sanitas comes in at $33, Imperial at 47, Oscar at
We're
51.
talking silver.
Silver.
See, that's you're bringing up a great point. The fact that, hey, these silver plans could be 30, 40, even $50. You see the doctor once a month for whatever reason, let's just say. Just having that silver plan and that lower exposure is no doubt a win. It's not a zero premium plan, but I love the fact that you're bringing up that analysis, Mike, because a lot of people, the zero is your hero is not always the case.
And being in this industry for almost for about 18 years at this point, and being in the know as far as like talking to carriers, CMS, you name it, I was very concerned about even this bracket here. The people that fall into that CSR range, is there going to be affordable options? And what I'm seeing right now is yes. Silver, even if it's $33, there's a little bit of a responsibility on that side, but you're going to get the best quality type of insurance for that $33 on a silver plan. But check this out. This is where it gets really fun and exciting.
Buckle
Okay.
up.
So we just mentioned Blue Cross of Texas, Imperial, United on a bronze level plan, all $0. Okay. Imperial, United Sanitas, and WellPoint for gold also comes in at $0 as well. So all the listeners out there, you can definitely do, I would always say, go with the silver. Okay. But if $33 is just going to break the bank for them, go gold at this point. WellPoint, United Sanitas, Imperial are all going to be fantastic options in this area, all $0 in these cases, right? So let's talk about the no subsidy people real quick. Okay. We know that, hey, you know what? If you're at that 400% level, you're falling off that proverbial cliff, so to speak. So let's talk about that. WellPoint on a catastrophic level starts at 448. Okay. And keep in mind, this was me running numbers based off of a 45-year-old making 80,000 a year. Okay.
Yeah.
Bronze, you're looking at about 465. Gold plans around 600. Okay.
So $400 to $600 premium only,
Yes.
and high deductible, high maximum.
Mm-hmm.
So you could be out $4,000 to $6,000 in premium, have a medical situation, significant one, come up, and then have to be
Still.
responsible for another out of pocket of $6,000 to $8,000.
Correct.
Or
So
10,000 because of that maximum went up.
yeah. So what I will say out there is, okay, probably for the viewers out there, hopefully in the next few weeks, I'm hearing things about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, we should hear something as far as good news towards what's going on in the world of the enhanced subsidies, right? I'm not holding my breath on that one at all whatsoever. I mean, the government needs to reopen. We need to get the government running again. And then hopefully we can actually get these subsidies enhanced and revitalized again. They're talking about bringing this out for another 1 to 2 years, potentially, as far as some level of an extension versus making it permanent. They're talking about all sorts of options. The big thing that I will actually share with everyone is make sure that we also look at viable alternate solutions as well, because you're right. If If I was 45, I'm making $80,000 and I'm paying $600 a month for insurance, would I want to pay $600 a month for insurance? The answer is no.
No.
No, I don't want to pay $600 for insurance. But I also do understand that, hey, I need it just in case something were to happen. So, a client like myself, I would want to look at alternate solutions, whether if that's short term medical, hospital indemnity plans, or stay tuned. I can't wait to give you a heads up towards something that we've been working towards
Cool.
down the future. So, probably in about 1 to 2 months from now, we can actually relay what that looks like. So that way, people in that bracket actually have a true affordable solution through an underwritten type process in order to make sure that, hey, we can actually get costs down to even $200 a month for that person.
Very cool.
Much more affordable and still a quality of care aspect.
Mike will be
Wow.
here again.
Right.
When
I
we
know.
when we when we
We
roll
find
that
that
out,
out.
I will be waiting for that. Jake, I'm gonna come back to you here in just a second to get back on with Communicare,
Yeah.
but something that I wanna add onto what Mike was talking about, which is huge. I'm so glad you're helping us with this breakdown on today's show, now that we can see what the 2026 rates are looking like.
Right.
But that's a 45-year-old. That's a single person. We've got families of 4, families of 3. We've got older individuals than the 45. We've got scenarios that I've just had in the past few weeks where, a dependent child is aging out of a group sponsored plan. Okay. But that aging child maybe is still not working that much, or maybe still a student for whatever reason, and if they're going to file their own tax return, aren't going to qualify. You just brought up the short-term medical options. There's other coverage options that we need to entertain and look at to bridge the gap. Now, listen, these alternative options are in most cases not health insurance. They don't have the essential benefits. There's going to be some gotchas. Some of them you might even not get underwritten. They might decline you. I had a few of those the past few weeks. So that just is a reminder. Make sure you sit down with a trusted agent.
Mhm.
Texas State Insurance Services is here to help you out with that and do that review. Our phone number is 210-880-5316, or visit us online at txstateinsurance.com. We'd love to visit with you. I will tell you, we've been pretty excited. A handful of listeners have been reaching out to us, hearing what the value we're trying to bring out on the air and on online as well. So we can't thank y'all enough. Just a reminder for everybody listening to the show, this is the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. We've got Jake with Communicare Clinics that we've been visiting and going back and forth on the value they bring to the community here in the San Antonio metro area. Mike Papuk with the Brokerage Inc., a trusted partner of our brokerage, and really help us block and tackle the craziness, so to speak, and the disruptions that we're seeing in the industry. And if you're just tuning in, we just talked about Communicare, kind of their history on what they're doing with their clinics here in the San Antonio market. Mike just brought up some scenarios on what we can expect with the Affordable Care Act scenarios on individual health insurance. Something that I want to remind everybody on, especially those that may be on an employer sponsored plan, when it is too expensive for you to put your spouse or your maybe your children, one or the other or both, on that employer sponsored plan, give us a call. There's a thing called the family glitch that it took them a decade to finally fix, but they fixed it. Our legislatures finally did something, right? And they fixed this to where we can look at alternative options for those family members. I'll give you one quick example, and then we're going to come back over here to Jake. We had a client with an employer sponsored plan, loved his 150 something dollar a month premium for himself, but did not like the 1100 to $1,200 premium that it was going to take to bring his wife and his 2 kids on that plan. We did a quick assessment. I said, hey, listen, let's take a look at your family size, your income. Sure enough, we were able to say, hey, listen, you need to stay put on your group plan. We're going to get your spouse and your 2 children on this plan for about, I think it was like $180 a month, and very reasonable premium. Obviously, a far cry from over $1,000 a month. Wasn't exact, had a little bit higher deductibles and maximums, but had copays for the doctor, for the specialist, prescription drugs, urgent care. I can get into an urgent care clinic that I can quicker than my primary care doctor. So that comes in very handy with the family glitch. So if you're listening and need to shop more affordable options, before you say, "Hey, I'm not going to get on my employer-sponsored health insurance plan because it's not affordable for the rest of my family," give us a call. Let's visit that and see if we can come up with a solution there. So we thank you so much for joining us on the show. Jake, let's talk about Communicare again. Um, I think it bears repeating, and we dove into a little bit where Communicare bridges the gap on the local community. It was established on the west side of San
Mhm.
Antonio. We know where there was a need for affordable health care and health coverage.
Sure.
Remind us of where you guys come into play to help that demographic, whether it be in individuals under 65 or that Medicare community, because we have a lot of ACA individuals. We've got the baby boomers that are coming off of individual coverage into Medicare.
Communicare.
Give us a little bit more insight on Communicare, please.
Yeah, so a lot of the gap lives in the disenfranchised groups throughout the town, whether it's, the lack of affordable, food or economically as well. That's where we live. We wanna make sure, again, for Communicare specifically, anybody that walks through our doors, that they have, high access, high quality to provide primary care, specific or primarily, but also for specialty care. We do have some specialists on hand, and on our team. So we make sure that they have really, no other reason to not get the primary care, just because a lot of the cost within healthcare lives in, a lot of these people, their ER was their PCP, or their ER continues to be their PCP. And that is detrimental to not only for them, but also just like the healthcare industry in general, cost wise, financially, the supplies, and you name it, all of that. So we work a lot alongside a lot of our hospitals in the San Antonio area to make sure that we are really capturing them as far as like the primary care, preventative care, that as patients and as community members, that we make sure that the community itself is healthy.
Kind of be a handoff from those
Yeah.
hospitals. Then.
Yes.
Okay.
So we have, as I mentioned earlier, like our population health team, like there is an individual that solely focuses on patients that went to the ER for preventative or non-emergency related visits, so that then they'll get transferred over to us, and then we can make sure that they're healthy, and that they know that they can come to us rather than going to a hospital for
I hate to interrupt you, but you're
preventative care.
bringing up a huge situation here. Do you know the stats? I mean, is it kind of staggering on how many people will go to that ER
I
visit
was curious
versus
too. I want to hear the stats on this one.
I don't know it for like the main majority population. Speaking of Medicare specific, like our Medicare related population,
yeah?
it has increased. I want to say like 20% just this year. Um, we're actually trying to figure out like why, like what is the why behind it all, like why, if they
Why
know.
go there versus
Right, like
okay?
if they know that they're specifically for Medicare, and as well as like Medicare Advantage and all the plans, supplemental, you name it. They know us as their primary care, but then they end up going to the hospital. What hurts even more is when they're readmitted to the hospital for a second time, and we're like, "What is happening?" So you know, that stat is like for, again, just for the Medicare population, but in general, a lot of our population in the entirety of, all the 150,000 patients that we do serve, quite a lot do go to the hospital. I can't tell you the specific number, but like we have like that individual I know is like pretty busy as far as
See,
making sure that they come
one
to
thing I
us.
want to share on what you just brought up right now and brought to light is there was an article in Time Magazine probably a decade ago. I got given this, man, I got to find to see if I still have the hard copy. And it was talking about the Affordable Care Act and why we were, and this was a decade ago, why we're at where we're at, 10 years ago. And it was everybody's fault. Okay.
Mm.
Us as the consumer going to the ER visit when we probably should have just waited till Monday morning and gone to a primary care doctor.
Right.
Okay. It's that doctor that maybe poked his nose into that operating room or that visit so we could get a billable. Okay. We had that insurance company that, is figuring out what they'll pay and not pay and get around that. You've got the pharmaceutical companies that they have big lobbies and they make sure they get paid. And it was just a melting pot, of every scenario. And I'm so glad I saw that when I first got into this industry and business, because it gave me some context, because I was new to the business when the Affordable Care Act. That's when I got into this business and industry. And I was just an entrepreneur just thinking, hey, this is going to level the playing field in this industry. It might be a good time to get in. And it was. It was very
Mhm.
tough. But we just all those scenarios for years and years and years are finally catching up. And I think even a decade later, where we're at today, we're finally at some crossroads, on where we're at. Mike, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely some crossroads, and I think client education has always been a key part of what brokers should be doing. But as you're saying all this, all of a sudden I'm just putting in the back of my mind, it's like, why aren't ER, the people in the front desk of ER saying, you clearly have a cold and you shouldn't be here. Can you just go to the urgent care instead?
Right.
Like, where's that? Where's that?
Where is that communication? And we try to do that specifically for our patients too, like when to go to an ER versus an urgent center or urgent care, because
Yes.
that itself makes a huge difference too. Of like, if you can't breathe, obviously go to the ER. Like if you're having chest pains, but like if you have a cold, like just maybe
Yeah.
either
Cold, tummy
wait or
ache, who
like
knows?
right,
When
like
we,
urgent
as a
care.
broker standpoint, when we're doing a review, I'm like, hey, life or limb, ER.
Yeah.
Everything
Yeah.
else, try to get to an urgent care or
Yes.
your primary care
Yeah.
doctor. And in urgent care, I mean, those are typically reasonable copays. Even just a cash pay on an urgent care, they'll work with you,
Right. Yep.
and they'll throw some medication at you and get you on your way. But that's a great
Yeah,
question.
one of the things I saw in Pennsylvania in my time there, was access to urgent care facilities, or even if you needed to go to urgent care, but they were closed at 8 o'clock at night as well. So that
Yeah.
layer of access. So then maybe the only route back then was, well, now I need to go to the emergency room just in case, because I've heard this story or that story from my friend, family, loved one, because it happened to them. It might happen to me. One of the coolest things that I've seen in the last decade, as far as like access to something that's instant to help you maybe take you from like a real concern level 10 to maybe down to a 2, is Teladoc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That to me has just been in the last decade, a very vital piece to, at least with my family. Having 2 small kids, the last thing I want to do is just like make a decision as to, should we take them to the children's hospital now? What's going on? But now because at that moment, if your kid's hurt or not feeling well, you're coming in from an emotional perspective
Correct.
and just trying to make sure that that love, that little love bug over there, you're taking care of that little dude or that little girl, and you're just good to go. And they are going to feel better as fast as possible. So now I just take a deep breath. I call the teledoc. They're like, okay, clearly this is a tummy ache. Check back with us in 2 hours, but it should go away within the next 30 minutes if you do XYZ. Great. And you know what? That saved us I always joke around it's the ER is the most expensive hotel bill out there. $1,000 an hour.
I want to add to this, Mike,
Literally.
because we have a lot of group benefits clients, and I try to bring this up to our individual clients as well in the ACA. But specifically on the group, we got a lot of people that just don't have a primary care doctor, but there's an
Mhm.
emergency that happens. They go to this emergency center,
Mm,
that's not connected to a hospital network,
Yeah.
and they get a bill for 10 grand, for getting a sling and stuff like that. Because you'll have and you see them all over the country. A lot of here in Texas. It could have been a location that was a tire shop or an oil change place or a Mexican food restaurant, and they converted it into a emergency clinic that a lot of times is out of network. That's a big gotcha that I don't, and that'll be another topic we probably bring on another show, is just make sure your go-to urgent care, your go-to hospital, your
yeah.
primary care
Yeah.
doctor would help with those costs as well.
And even having
Right.
access to that in general, right? Like a lot of people, my gosh, like how many times are those pieces accurate, right? Which is why I'm loving the connection with like what we did with yesterday with United Healthcare and Sanitas clinics, and kind of bringing it about like, we're going to have people from United in there as well. We're going to make sure that your care level is from 0 to hero at this point.
Yeah.
On the flip side, too, one thing that Oscar's bringing to the table, which is really unique, first carrier to do this that I'm aware of, Oswell. Are you guys familiar with Oswell and what that?
I saw the update come on our portal. Talk about it, Rick. We're going to wrap up here in just a few minutes, but
I will say real quick, it's pretty much an AI companion that you can ask it anything, and it'll tell you within a second.
it was
This
a
is your
matter
doctor.
of
This is
time.
in This is a network. You go here, you go there. Oh, based off of this, we could schedule in for a virtual visit right there at your fingertips. So just planting that
Wow.
seed.
That
Freaking amazing. And
That's
more
awesome.
will adopt this.
that's gonna
Yeah.
be fun, and
Yeah.
Oscar came in, has always been a good for the past, decade, 12 years, a good, carrier that we've utilized. They were EPO options, they're HMO options, but they're priced right in some scenarios where they want that flexibility on a
Hmm.
specialist. Listen, guys, we're gonna wrap up this show. I know this went by really quick.
It did.
I'm
Too
hoping
quick
that
all
we
the
have
time.
Jake and Mike join us again, hopefully in the coming weeks or to kick off the new year. Again, it's the Mad Insurance Show, making a difference in insurance. I'm your host, Justin Holland, here out of San Antonio with Texas State Insurance Services and Palmetto Life Group. Please keep us in mind for your health insurance needs, whether it be Medicare, individual health, or as well as employee benefits, life, auto, and home. We're here to help you out with all of it out there. And you can reach us at 210-880-5316. You can also visit us online at txstateinsurance.com. But Mike, with the brokerage Inc., so glad you were able to join us again today. Jake, I'm really glad. I love the relationship that we're building with Communicare here at a local
Absolutely.
level. Y'all are doing some great work and great things for the community. Our brokerage and our show wanted to provide some awareness off of that. And then obviously I needed Mike here for a little venting session on what we've got with the individual health insurance market. But we can't thank y'all for listening to this week's show. Please keep on reaching out to us by phone and email, and we'll talk next week, everybody. Take care.